Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Izzy's World. I'm your host, Izzy, and I am the self-proclaimed Autistic Mystic. Now, if you're in the Patreon, you already know that's my new nickname, the Autistic Mystic. And if you're not in the Patreon, you need to be, because for $5 a month, that's $1.25 a week, you get an extra episode of Izzy's World, aka Izzy's World Ultra. You also get all of my other exclusive content and past content, like Duh Heads, another podcast I ran, hundreds of other videos, tons of conspiratorial deep dives I've done on the music industry, all fully sourced and vetted. We have so much esoteric information, it'll make your head spin. And here's the other thing. I'm going for it, baby. I'm going to build a set in my kitchen. Okay, I'm turning this thing full time. But in order to do that, you got to help me out. You got to go to the Patreon. There's 5,000 people in the Patreon right now, but only less than 10% are paid members. If you can do that, we can make this bad baby a full-time gig. We can fully go for it. Because here's the freaking deal, guys. I'm just going to be super candid, okay? I do still work, okay? I do still work. I've tried to do this full time, but I don't pull in very much money doing this. I really don't. And I've tried to do it full time, and I don't make enough. And here's what I do. I recently had to take up another job, and I'm going to tell you what this job entails. This job, I am working with disabled kids who are not disabled in like the sense of like they have like, you know, like physical deformities or like, you know, they can't walk. It's not stuff like that. It's kids who have emotional issues and they are too young to be sent to basically juvie. And they have certain certain things going on with them where they cannot be put into a prison system. So these kids go to a special school, and at this school, I deal with people literally peeing in cups and throwing them in my face. I deal with a kid climbed on top of the school last week, and when we tried to get him down, he started peeing on everybody. I deal with that every day. So I would love to do this. To do this full time, and I'm trying to build the set, trying to get the lighting right. I do have an editor now, so we're trying to really get this thing going. Last week, of course, we had some audio problems, but this week we're going to fix it up. So if you like the show, just consider it. Just think about it. I'm not begging, but baby, I'm on my hands and knees. And I'm not going to make a GoFundMe to be like, please let me, please, I want to do, please. I want to give you something for it. I want to make sure it's a product you truly can enjoy, okay? I want this thing to be the best that it can possibly be, okay? And like, here's the thing. Right now I have a tripod that films up into my gullet. I have my undercarriage on the front page of the internet. Okay, let's do this thing. Here's the thing. My YouTube is already shadow banned. The truth is completely shadow banned. Everybody's mad. I'm out here talking about metaphysics and esotericism. Everybody's pissed off at me. I'm the one taking piss to the dome every fucking day at work. Then I come home and do this for you guys. And it is what it is. Also, go listen to Gloom. So that's it. Those are the only ads today. I also want to keep this thing advertisement free. So if you can go to the Patreon, that makes it so we can do that. I'm also trying to start doing 2 extra Izzy's World a week. So we'll kind of see how it goes, and we'll see how that goes. But here's the deal. Today we have a lot of things I want to get off my chest. And we have a lot of esoteric concepts we need to start talking about. And the first thing I want to talk about is the reason we're focusing on the tarot so much and why that is. And I kind of was trying to figure out why I was led to talk about that first and why that's the way things just in my life kind of happen, and they always end up happening in the best possible way. Okay. I really do truly try to allow Holy Spirit to just flow through me and just do things however they're supposed to be done. And I don't fight it. You know, I just go with the flow, and the flow knows, baby, okay? When something rhymes, that means it's right. Every time it's perfect. And I figured out, so the tarot is basically a pictogram version of esotericism and archetypes. It explains everything in a way that it gives it a certain type of imagery to where we can remember things. Now, the tarot is basically like a diagram version of the Kabbalah. So the Kabbalah is characterized by this image that will be on the screen called the Tree of Life. Okay, now the Tree of Life is a hermetic magic system that explains the metaphysical quandaries of the universe, and the tarot gives us images behind that. The other reason you want to start listening to the ultras is because it's all just starting to go. So it's just all sequential. So last week we talked about a ton of things involving the tarot as well. And what eventually we're going to get to is we're going to use the tarot to then sink into the Kabbalah, because if we can do it that way, you now have images in your head to associate with the different sephirots, which are these different sort of parts of the Tree of Life that lead into each other, and they explain things. And if you know the tarot associated with each one and how they kind of operate, it makes it a lot easier, and it just kind of makes it flow very well. Like, for example, I have a friend who we've been talking about this stuff a lot, and he's had his whole life, he's had this one tarot card constantly be it's like a repeating theme within his life. And so what I've done is I've used the Kabbalah and I've used tarot in order to create basically like an infographic and a write-up of how he can get out of certain patterns to change his life from being a certain archetype into being another one. Okay, and that's essentially what this kind of show is about. It's about taking your frame of reference, of your frame of reality, and shifting it into a way to where your reality can be better for yourself. That's all that this is. This is just a shift in your perspective. It's almost like listening to like a motivational speaker, but it's more about how your mind affects reality. Okay, so if we're able to shift our perspective into a way of thinking more mystically and not believing in coincidence and thinking the world and reality is a lot more magical than it seems or than we interpret it, then life starts to get a lot better and it gets a lot more fun. And what ends up happening is things start to move, right? Like with me, this stuff has only blown up for me in the last like 9 months. And now I'm like super close to doing this full time. I'm super close to I'm just conquering dreams. And it's because I'm using my will to bend reality, but I'm not bending reality against what God wants me to do. I'm falling in line with what he wants me to do, which is to teach people what the truth is and how to get there. Okay, so that's kind of what it is. Like, you know, I kind of say like I don't do the tarot. I don't like do tarot cards, but it is a way in order to framework metaphysically reality. And I'm going to tie this into what we're going to be talking about immediately, okay, which is going to be the Pope. We have the big Pope, the big conclave meeting I don't know if it's going on now. I actually have literally no idea. But what I wanted to kind of talk about was the different cardinals that are being selected and possibly why. And it's super interesting because here's the deal. I have family that works for the Catholic Church very closely. And I am a fan of Cardinal Robert Serra. And I like that he is a no-nonsense kind of guy who just kind of tells it like it is, right? I think that he would be really good for the direction of the Holy Catholic Church, right? The Roman Catholic Church. I think that it would be a good direction because I think there were things with St. Francis that were a little bit off. Now, the thing with me and my Catholicism and my journey, I've already talked about how I've basically like kind of tried to convert to Orthodoxy, but I had a meeting with a priest that went really, really weird and I didn't really jive with him. And parts of the reason of why I'm considering converting is I don't believe the Pope is infallible. And I also have certain personal experiences within the Catholic Church that coincide with their debacles, of why I kind of am not the biggest fan. I also believe due to sort of my beliefs on the trinary that was created by Ian Ferguson, with reality being made up of three types of consciousnesses within individuals and just in general, right? The Molochian consciousness, above that Luciferian consciousness, and above that Most High consciousness. I do believe parts of the Catholic Church have been compromised and are actually operating within a Molochian consciousness framework. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, again, that's all Patreon stuff that I've talked about for the last year, and we're kind of moving past that. So I do believe parts of the Catholic Church are operating within a Molochian framework, or within a Molochian consciousness, and there are things I don't, it just doesn't feel the way it should. I've had personal experiences, yada, 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 right? But I've had these family members, because I've talked to them about Cardinal Sarah, and it's interesting why they might not want him to be the Pope. Now, Pope Francis had some interesting stuff with worshiping a South American deity named Pachama within St. Peter's Basilica. So that is one thing that I did not like about Francis, and it's under the guise of this, like, we're celebrating diversity, and we have the people who are just coming in, and we're all just together. We're in this together. No, we're not. Okay, we're not in this together. Okay, about 1,000 years ago, we had a bunch of people try to literally take over all of the Byzantine Empire. They conquered Spain, they conquered a lot of northern Africa, and they tried to take over all of Europe and implement their Middle Eastern ideas and religion onto us. So I don't really think that we're all in this together. And we sure as hell are not going to have Pachama, the Andean goddess that represents Mother Earth, being within the Vatican, and we're all doing a big fucking dance with fucking bushes on our heads, pretending like we're in the fucking Amazon rainforest. The only thing that Amazon is good for is delivering fucking packages to my front door and maybe a couple cocoa beans every once in a while. I don't need Pachama, okay? If I needed Pachama, I would fucking, rip my pants or whatever the fuck it is. And this is Pope Francis's explanation. Pope Francis defended the inclusion of Pachama, emphasizing the statues were displayed without idolatrous intentions. What does that even mean, dude? I was just watching porn for the plot. What the fuck? Get out of here, dude. The use of Pachama can be interpreted in different ways. What the hell? So good the color blue if you're colorblind, you fucking idiots. Here we go, baby. Here we go. I've been getting fucking piss thrown in my face for fucking a week straight. I'm ready to fucking decapitate. The Autistic Mystic is back, baby. Ribbit. Okay? So here we go. So Pope Robert Sarah. There's been a massive Catholic Church sexual abuse scandal that happened in 2021. Okay, so let's go over this. It was uncovered in October of 2021. The Independent Commission on Sexual Abuse within the Church released a comprehensive report revealing that approximately 330,000 children were victims of sexual abuse within the French Catholic Church over the span of 70 years. The report highlighted that the majority of these victims were pre-adolescent boys from diverse social backgrounds. The abuse was perpetrated by an estimate of 2,900 to 3,200 clergy members, including priests, monks, and lay people associated with the Catholic Church. Here's the deal. From people inside of the Catholic Church that I know, that are family members, the reason they would not want Robert Sarah to be the Pope is because he would be very vocal and tough on that stuff. Now, when it comes to the Catholic Church, the way that I view the way that these sort of things are handled, right, is branches that bear no fruit begin to die off. Now, within the body of Christ in general, that's what I believe about churches that are operating. You have all these churches that have prophets and these people who can, they're fucking throwing up snakes and fucking dancing with jingle bells in their ears. like those churches tend to not last, right? So I believe that these churches naturally die off, and I believe bad parts of the Catholic Church begin to die off as well. And these people are obviously begin to be exposed, etc. But if you know one of the tenets of Molochian consciousness, the way that they literally they pay their due diligence to Moloch is literally the harming of children. This opens a portal to the egregorical deity of Moloch and unleashes the Molochian consciousness or spirit upon the world. So when you do something in that manner, just like these 2,900 to 3,200 French individuals did over the course of 70 years to approximately a third of a million children, they are opening portals and unleashing Molochian consciousness throughout the whatever, right? The world. And this is exactly why you have pedophilia within the highest rankings of politics, etc. It's what you have to do. It's literally the way that you pledge your allegiance to Satan, right? To the adversary. And I believe that there are parts of the Catholic Church that promote this, and that's what's been going on. And a lot of people say that Robert Serra, who has these conservative views, would be very critical of this, and especially with the way the West is moving, because remember, within the body of Christ, which is just the Christian church, you have the Roman Catholic Church is the rock of the Western church. Okay, Protestantism, you guys can say whatever you want. Within the apostolic succession and the church that is withheld the test of time, you have the Roman Catholic Church, and in the East, we have the Orthodox churches. Okay, and in the West, we have this issue with moral relativism. Okay, and Cardinal Serra is very against that. He does not like that stuff. He's gonna come in and be a fucking hard ass, and I'm telling you, they don't want that. And especially if we see him not become elected pope, okay, then it's going to show that there is possibly some things going on that they don't want to be fully exposed. Now, here's the thing. We have that going on within the French Catholic Church. That is one instance. I'm from California, and there right now is a lawsuit going on involving literally hundreds of millions of dollars, and again, hundreds of thousands of victims of sexual abuse from the Catholic Church within the diocese that operates within California. Now, if you know what a diocese is basically a school district, right? So you have, within a school district, you have, 5 schools within the district. That's what a diocese is, but for churches. You'll have, 10 churches within the diocese, and it's typically based on county, right? I grew up in the county, in San Bernardino County, so there's the Diocese of San Bernardino, blah, 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 right? So you have this issue, this systemic issue going throughout the entire church, right? And it's been going on for a very long time. Now, what does that mean? I don't really know. I have no idea, but it shows that there is this bigger issue, and this issue has been going on, and the only way that this issue will be resolved is if there's someone to cut the head off of the snake. Now, this is obviously an issue that we have been seeing prop up within American politics more and more over the last 20 years. We had Epstein. We just had RFK talk about how the Biden administration was involved in child trafficking involving a part of the government called the HHS. So, this is an ongoing issue that's being brought more and more to the limelight. Now, esoterically, what we can look at when it comes to this stuff coming to the limelight is I've talked ad nauseum about how Vedic astrologers believe that we have just moved into the not all Vedic astrologers, but we have just entered a shift within the Yuga cycle. We're going to be in a 300-year shift, okay? Within this shift, we are shifting from Molochian consciousness into a Luciferian consciousness. This is according to Ian Ferguson. Now, when we're doing this is why this stuff is all being brought to light. 2021 was only 3.5 years ago, okay? So That's why this Molochian stuff of the lowest caliber, of the lowest chakra energy forms that are existing magically, the ritualistic abuse of children in order to literally get some sort of energy towards a dark deity. Obviously, pedophilia is bad. That's what they're doing, right? Okay, that's how we get the kids who piss off of the buildings onto Izzy's face. That's how we get those people, because of sick, twisted fucks who ruin these kids' lives when they're children. That's what happens. Okay, so that's what it is, and that's just the truth. And people like Robert Serra, and these are whisperings within the church itself. That's what they're saying. That's what I've heard. I don't know, whatever. But an interesting thing, ladies, is since we've been learning about the tarot, we can actually use the tarot in order to sort of explain events within the Catholic Church that have been going on, right? So again, the tarot is archetypes, okay? It's a way of explaining the universe. Now, within tarot, we have the Hermit. Now, the Hermit is this deity, this being that represents solitude, introspection, and the pursuit of inner guidance. It encourages a period of reflection and self-discovery, often involving a temporary retreat from external demands to focus on one's inner world. This card prioritizes wisdom, guidance, and the potential mentor or teacher that appears in one's life. Now, so the themes are obviously solitude and inner guidance, self-discovery, etc. Here's the deal, okay? Tarot cards can also be reversed if you're doing a reading. If they're reversed, right? So the tarot represents sort of an isolation and a path to self-discovery. If reversed, it would be the opposite. So it would mean a lack of self-reflection, misguided guidance, or even a fear of that isolation, a reluctance to embrace the solitude. Okay? So when you have this would tie in perfectly to what we see within the Catholic Church. We have this issue of pedophilia that's going on, okay, within France. There's obviously people that need to traffic these people. The Hermit would represent a trafficker. Okay, we've already gone over the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man represents the sacrifice, a being who is given up for something greater, or gives themselves up many times for something greater. Now, the Hanged Man would represent the children in this case. Now, a very interesting caveat in addition to this is one of the most classic and scary major arcana that exist is the devil. Right? Now, in this very case, if we're using the tarot to metaphorically and to esoterically get an archetypal understanding of what's going on within this sort of French clergy, right? The devil would actually be represented by the people doing the pedophilia, right? It would literally be the clergy. That's what it would be. Now, one of the interesting thing about the devil is that is the first tarot card I ever had pulled for me. It was very, very freaky, and it freaked me the fuck out very much because I was it was right when my drinking was starting to get really bad in my early 20s, and it was right when I started dabbling. Right? When you start dabbling, because it takes a pretty big step to go from being someone who's like, man, I think there might be a ghost in the basement, to being like, I'm going to get a fucking tarot reading, especially when you're raised Catholic, right? And the thing with the devil is it really does represent a sort of entrapment. It's like you're trapped by a circumstance or by a habit. And it's really, really related to addiction very often. But the interesting thing about it is it's an extremely subjective card. And the reason it's so subjective is because it's usually predicated off of the actions of the fool, right? So people who tend to have addiction problems like myself, or they kind of have this haphazard way of going about life where they're not looking about the abyss that lingers off of the edge of the cliff. right? And it's very much Molochian as well, in the sense that these clergymen who are engaging in this Molochian act, there is no foresight. To do something that vile is to consume for the sake of consumption, right? Even if you're trying to open a portal to the dark realm, what you're doing is you're literally consuming for the sake of thriving hedonistically within the material. The devil card is the ultimate card of the material, of just here. You're here. Everything is hard. It's flesh. It's carnal. It's literal carnage and blood and pain, and you enjoy it. You like it. You're a freak, right? I mean, it's very Gnostic in this sense. Now, I personally have this idea where it gets kind of into the speed of light, and the way that the speed of light has actually been proven to be slowing down scientifically, and it gets into this whole thing. There's this guy named Faith by Reason, and he actually talks about how we think of the heavenly realms as being these airy, almost not real places of existence, but due to the speed of light slowing down, it's actually showing that matter is actually beginning to separate, because everything is light, because God spoke the word into existence, and God is light. And it's this whole fucking crazy thing where the word is light and matter is beginning to separate, which ties scientifically into the heat death of the universe. And we're also through that we get to the fact that the heavens are actually more material than current reality, and it's actually inversed, and that Lucifer inverted our idea of the material and the more spiritual, lighter nothingness of the ether that we're currently in. It's a whole fucking thing. It's like, really, I shouldn't even have gone. I think I probably just got fucking confused a ton of people. Yeah, but I think that's what I did with that. I was just fucking went off a little tangent right there. But so we have the Hanged Man, which would be represented by the child. We have the devil, which would be representing the clergyman doing this Molochian hedonistic pleasure, right? For the sake of literally, just being hedonistic. And then we have the hermit, who would represent the people harbingering and bringing these children to the devil, the consumers, right? But another interesting thing is we also have a card called the Tower. Now, the Tower represents sudden disruptive change, crisis, and upheaval, but it can also symbolize liberation or a new beginning after destruction. And what we can actually view from here is, does anybody remember what signal we had semi-recently? We had Notre Dame catch on fire, right? And the Tower could represent exactly that signal, that it's not just a fire, it's a message, okay? A signal that the old guard is falling. And if Pope Sarah is the one chosen, perhaps he's the one that will extinguish the flame, right? And where was Notre Dame, baby? Notre Dame was in France, of course. Now, obviously, this is real schizo. All you do is schizocast. I don't look at the world like that, buddy, okay? I talked about it on Izzy's World, episode 5.5 Ultra. In order to think mystically, this is what I summarized. I'll give you the goods right now. If you want to shift your frame of reference that we're talking about into the most mystical form of thinking, without having to actually be like, oh, I'm a wizard. I'm a fucking wizard, Harry. Oh, I'm gonna eat pink birthday cake like fucking like Hagrid. Oh, I'm a Hufflepuff. Okay, like to not fucking be like I'm pulling tarot, which I don't think any of you should do. By the way, I don't think any of you should do that. By the way, right? I don't think you have to. You don't have to do that, but whatever. Because you're just going to get the answers you already know. That's how the tarot works. But anyways, you know them without know them. It's knowing it without consciously, intellectually knowing it. You know it in your wisdom, which is a separate thing, fucking entirely, right? But in order to if you want to just shift into thinking mystically without having to do all of that and to be like, oh, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Just stop believing in coincidence. Just completely stop believing in coincidence. Right now, just go, coincidence doesn't exist. I guarantee you, everything in your life will begin to make a little bit more sense, and not at the same time, but in a way that will be liberating and awesome. And it makes things, a little bit more fun. But here's the thing. So in addition, so we have all of these things representing all of these things, the potential of the old guard cracking if Pope Sarah is chosen, right? If he's going to pull that veil back. I mean, I don't want to say exactly this, but what did Alex Jones literally talk about a few years ago, a long time ago now? Now it's a long time ago, like 2016 on Joe Rogan, where he's like, there's literally vampiric pedophiles that are holding the Matrix together via their European blood cult sacrifices, right? I mean, there you go, right there you go. I mean, I don't know. I obviously don't want to say that, but I definitely do think that there is something nefarious going on. Clearly. It's not one or two cases. It's 300,000 cases. I don't know. And I just think Vatican II and all that stuff I've already talked about on previous episodes makes these things very weird. But we'll see. We got to take these things one day at a time, and we'll see. Now, very Catholic heavy episode, because there's another thing I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit more. And, so I also just covered several more tarot right there. We covered the Tower, we covered the Hermit, and we covered another one, whatever, the Tower, the Hermit, the Devil. We covered some major arcanas. Okay, again, we're going to go over all of them, but here's the thing. I'm not going to like autistically go over every single one. I think originally I was going to, but like eventually we're going to build upon the Kabbalah, and it's going to be fucking sick. And you're going to have a framework to where you can see these things, see these archetypes and kind of understand how to move within them. And it really can change just the way you look at things. That's what this is. Again, that's what this is. But speaking of the Catholic Church, since we're just on this vein, we're on this main fucking vein. I was doing some research and I got to this really interesting place. I was thinking about the Gallapagos Islands, which is such a weird thing to think about ever. But I was thinking about those lizards and those lizards that go under the water. Now, just a brief aside about amphibians in general. Amphibians within Esoterica and within just spiritual things and what they represent the ability to go from one thing to another. They can go from the physical to the metaphysical. They can go from dark to light. They can go from land to water, right? It shows being able to be able to I want to say transvert, but that's like not a word. But they're lucid, like the god of Kek, literally the god of Kek. We want to talk about destroying our idea of coincidence. How coincidental is it the fact that we have the rare frog Pepe, who Kek means LOL in Korean. I almost said South Korean. In Korean. In these video games where you can't type LOL and it becomes the main language on 4chan, like the main LOL, and it's literally the name of an old Egyptian god, an old Egyptian frog god. Oh, just a coincidence. Oh, it's just a coincidence. I'm a Reddit atheist. Check out my Funko Pop collection. I actually just picked up a brand new Thunderbolts Funko Pop. Haven't you seen it, the new Marvel movie? Yes, Dr. Doom's going to be in it. Why don't you talk about the Jesuits and the Bilderbergs? Why don't you talk about that? Why don't you talk about that a little bit more? I go on our conspiracy all the time. I've seen so many pictures of Epstein's hook nose. Did you know it's actually 111 countries now? Shut the fuck up, dude. You don't know anything about the Bilderbergs. I fucking built the Bilderbergs. He's talking about the Catholic Church. Doesn't even mention the Jesuits. Doesn't even mention the Jesuits. That's what I'm talking about within the fucking Molochian consciousness pedophilia, you fucking morons. This is a discourse that we're building upon. All he does is schizocast. Sorry, dude. Trying to just emote here. I'm playing Minecraft at 2 a.m. What's up? What's up? All right, I'll be here all night, folks. So, anyways, so no coincidences. Yeah, I was thinking about these lizards, and I was just like, man, those lizards are fucking crazy, right? Like, they can go from water to land. That's like so insane. Like, what a crazy thing. And I was thinking about evolution, and it's so funny how like the way I think about history is like it's very much like I was thinking about, you know, obviously I believe in the biblical rendition of history as of now, but when I was in school, I'm very autistic. I'm the autistic mystic. Okay. So I was very like, evolution is real. And actually the Catholic Church actually believes in evolution. So that works with my theology. When I was like 12, I was like a fucking little freak. So, you know, I'm thinking about evolution and how like sometimes I'll be like, man, the caveman days must have been crazy. But then I have to remember, like, I don't believe in the caveman day. I don't believe in that anymore. It's like fucking whatever, right? So, you know, it's like this sort of cognitive dissonance I'm like dealing with. I'm thinking about evolution. I'm thinking about the fucking Galapagos Islands, and I'm fucking like, oh, I'm like fucking mulling over all these fucking ideas. And then I start thinking, I'm like, well, Galapagos Islands, there's an island by the Galapagos Island, and the name is San Cristobal, which means Saint Christopher. And I'm like, that's fucking weird. Why would they have that? Why would they have an island named Saint Christopher in the Galapagos Islands, which is supposed to be the foundry of evolution? We have the documents. We have the Palladian documents that we received from the Gormonian underlords, from the Vril reptilian race. We got them from Alex Jones's esteemed InfoWars news deck himself, right? We have the Palladian documents from the Galapagos reporting in. So, so I'm thinking about all this, and I'm like, Saint Christopher, that's so crazy. And I remember this conversation I had with an old friend of mine, who's not a friend anymore, because I found out he is a Fed. Schizocast. Welcome to the Schizocast. You are a Fed. I know who you are. You've been caught. and he was he was telling me about Saint Christopher, and I was like, how Saint Christopher, he's this saint, and he has a literal dog's head. So these depictions of Saint Christopher, he has the head of a dog. Now, if we look into this historically, the head of a dog is a mythological creature, and I can't remember exactly the name. Let me see. It starts with a C. It's called a cynocephaly. A cynocephaly. And it's a mythical species believed by ancient and medieval writers and to inhabitants of far-off lands. So basically, the way that they would depict people who lived from far away is they would give them a dog's head, right? And the thing with Saint Christopher is he was supposed to be from Africa, I believe. I believe he's supposed to be from Africa. So he was depicted with this dog head, right? And another interesting caveat is people who were considered to be barbarians or barbers were also depicted with these dog heads. And I'm tying these in. I'm like, okay, St. Christopher has a dog head. San Cristobal is by the Galapagos Islands. Okay, that's like fucking crazy. And then I'm like, the Galapagos, you can't even like go to the Galapagos. The Galapagos is a lot like Antarctica. It's like fucking, 185% of it you can't see unless you're being supervised. And I'm like, that's so fucking crazy. I wonder if there's something to that. There's got to be some. I don't know. I just thought that it's just like fucking weird. Why would they randomly name this island San Cristobal, Saint Christopher, if it has nothing to fucking do with that? And it's like, maybe there's more to the Galapagos. Maybe there's more things going on there. Maybe there is some sort of, there's strange beings, that are strange being animals that they found there, and that's why they used fucking what's his name, Darwin's. That's why they used that place. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's bizarre. It's interesting. It's strange, and it ties into another thing. And I don't know if I talked about this on the show already. I'm super sorry. I don't think that I have, but there's this book, okay? And back when I was teaching and not at where I'm currently at, where I'm at the fucking, holy shit. A part of that, right? It's hard because a part of me feels like I'm at this place in order to make a difference in these kids' lives where they're is something that happened that has made them, and it's much more of a nurture than a nature thing, right? It's like something has happened where these kids have these emotional disturbances and these insane behavior problems. Like this literally happened. This one kid, and this was before I worked there. This is a story that they told me. There was a kid who ED'd his mom with at hammer point. He had a hammer pointed to her head and RAP'd his own mom. So that's the kind of kids I'm working with. And they're children. They're like kids, like not like 15. They're like young. So I don't know, dude. So that's what it is. But a part of me is like thinking I'm here to help and make a difference, and possibly I can be the light that one of these kids needs. But then a part of me is like dealing with being threatened every day and getting piss thrown at me, and it's just like, I don't know. Like, what do we do here? Like we gotta get out of this place. But whatever, whatever. I think once it's over, I'll have a lot of good stories, but for now, well, whatever. And the one kid I'm talking about, before I was working there, that was a horror story they had told me to express to me the severity of what happens at this place. And that the kid is in, he's in jail now or whatever, prison. He was severe enough that they had to put him in a juvenile detention facility. And most of these kids are there, but they have specialized things going on with their whatever. So anyways, but we have this stuff. This it's heavy. It's like so heavy. Anyways, back to Saint Cristobal, right? No, but that's what I was gonna say. So recently, this weekend I just went on a trip, and I went to this place, and there's an art gallery that we went into. There's like all these art places all around where we were in Scottsdale, Arizona. And one of them is the midnight paintings of Dr. Seuss. And I don't know if I've discussed this on the show or not, but it's interesting how Dr. Seuss kind of had this dark side. Now, I've talked about on the Patreon, I did a long theory, which is a conspiracy breakdown video, fully sourced, talking about the origins of Dr. Seuss. Now, Dr. Seuss was originally the head animator in the propaganda division of, I believe it was the U.S. Navy. It might have been the Army. It was one of them. He was a fucking massive Fed, and he was a massive propaganda guy. He basically created propaganda within the United States. He also was the first person to weaponize calling people Nazis if they disagreed with whatever the climate was. So if you disagreed, you were a Nazi. So that's another interesting thing. Also, he's one of the 109 or 111, whatever you want to call it now, right? So there's that too. But the thing that's interesting about it is he has a book, and it's called If I Ran the Zoo. Now, this is the first book that was actually banned during COVID when they were banning the Dr. Seuss books for being racist. Now, the book If I Ran the Zoo does have artistic depictions of African Americans and Asians. There is a lot of racist stuff in the book. Like there's no denying that. But one of the really interesting things about it is this entire book is going past Antarctica to find creatures that are, otherworldly. Now, is there other examples of this within the world if there is a space beyond Antarctica? I'm not really a big flat earth guy. I'm not a big beyond Antarctica. I don't know. I don't fucking care. Okay. We're not focused on that. That's not what we're interested in. We're interested in explaining the metaphysics of life and this philosophical quandaries on how to bend reality to our will in alignment with God's will for us, right? I always say you need to pray as if Christ is not going to intercede, but have the faith knowing that he will, because he will, right? That's how it is. You have to work and pray as if he will not, right? That's how That is a faith-based thing. But anyways, so yeah, so Dr. Seuss has the Midnight Painting showing his dark psyche, and then also these books that are banned. It's like so interesting. It's like the same thing with the Galapagos. It's like you can't go to the Galapagos. You can't go feed the high diving lizards. I don't know. Just questions. I'm just asking questions here. That's all I'm doing. I just have questions. I'm just asking them. I'm just a truth guy, okay? Now, I want to kind of explore this idea for the show, and I want to see what you guys think. So, first of all, I always encourage you guys to comment as much as possible. This show is so shadow banned. I tried to find it on a computer at the Airbnb that has like none of our login information, no one related to me, and my channel is impossible to find on a television. I'll tell you that. So comment as much as you can, but I want to know what you guys think of this, because originally this whole thing started off as like a music conspiracy thing, because I have experiences within the music industry. My father has experiences within the music industry. I have stories for days. I have all this stuff. It's turned more into esoterica because people are really interested in that, and that is a well that is very deep that I could always pick from, and we'll go back and forth. Sometimes more esoteric, sometimes more music, sometimes more pop culture or movies, right? But I want to start getting more and combining Izzy's world, possibly the long theories that I do that are on the music industry, and incorporate that into the show. So maybe we'll have an episode where I do talk about things like Lana Del Rey's fucking, Nepo past or whatever, right? So I want to know what you think, because what I'm going to do right now, I'm actually going to discuss and break down Lady Gaga's Abracadabra music video. Okay, so she just recently came out with this song called Abracadabra. Now, for a very long time, I wanted to do a breakdown of this music video, and I wanted to explain it and to talk about it. Okay, that I wanted to do that. I had a whole long theory planned for it, but just the way things worked, it just didn't really work out, and it just fucking whatever. So now I want to try it again, and I want to kind of talk about it. So I'm not going to be playing the music video alongside like me doing this. I'm not going to be just playing it because I don't want to get the video completely taken down. But it's super interesting because obviously the song is called Abracadabra, which is a magic word. Okay. Now the point of abracadabra and saying it is that it is like a sort of incantation. It essentially banishes evil. Okay, but that's not the main thing I wanted to talk about. This video in particular shows two different sides of Lady Gaga. One of the sides, okay, she's wearing a white dress, and when she's wearing the white dress, the dancing around her it's not as aggressive, it's not as crazy. Right. And this obviously represents a certain dichotomy within her, symbolizing innocence, symbolizing light. Okay. Now, the other side of her, she's wearing red, which we get the stereotypical, borderline archetypal lady in red, right? Which represents power, representing darkness. I mean, Kanye West literally even has a song, Devil in a Red Dress. What people don't know is a song that was cut from My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was a song called Lady in a White Dress. Now, the interesting thing about the dichotomy between the white dress and the red dress is we're showing two different parts of the same person, the person that is Lady Gaga. And we have Abracadabra, which to me links to Aliester Crowley's word avocadara. What the fuck is it? What does he say? He says it avocadara, I believe. Let me fucking see really quick. Let me fucking see. I have to get this accurate. I don't know. I don't know if I'm thinking of the right thing. I might be thinking of, honestly, I'm not even joking. I might be thinking of Harry Potter. Avocadara. I think that's Harry Potter, actually. I don't know. I don't fucking remember. I think Avocadabra is like the magic spell that they use to like fucking kill people in Harry Potter. Anyways, what I was getting back to But what this like reminds me of, right, is like, so we have Lady Gaga, who is super aligned with all of this stuff, right? She's super in with Marina Abramovich. She's always doing these weird fucking occultic things with Marina. She wants to party with Marina. She does these screaming things. It's all this very it's really interesting because there's Crowley really has this thing that's borderline pagan, right? It's like it really rides the line between paganry and then and like legit Satanism, Molochianism, more Molochianism than Luciferianism, right? Because really with these sort of magic systems, you can feel it. It's more of a feel. You just feel the Molochian, the lower, right? But these two things, these two halves, the red and the white, reminds me of the Crowley-esque idea, okay, of the divine feminine and his idea on the union of the two. So Crowley talks about the union of the opposites, which is a mystical, philosophical, and psychological idea that says true wholeness or enlightenment comes from reconciling seemingly opposing forces within oneself, within the universe. Now, this appears in tons of esoteric traditions: Hermeticism, Thelema, Gnosticism, the Tao, which is like yin yang, and Jungian psychology, etc. Now, the interesting thing about this is when we talk about it in relation to Crowley, right? In order to get to the higher form of self, the higher form of self is what will give you what you want. It will be the way you can exert your true will onto the world, okay? And this is literally a word that Crowley uses, the true will, your deepest, most authentic spiritual purpose, okay? And to discover and accomplish your true will, you have to confront and reconcile parts of yourself that you might deny or suppress, like your shadow aspects, like the Jungian idea of the shadow self. Now, if you remember when I talk in a couple of videos back, I did a video talking about how having an Instagram troll account where you just comment and troll is literally digital alchemically. You're digitally alchemizing your shadow self, putting it into a digital container, and then unleashing it with no care in the world onto the world, and how fucking crazy and evil that is, right? So this is like sort of an example of this. And this dichotomy between the lady in white and the lady in red is literally her using this magic word abracadabra to transform into this being that can literally exert her true will by overcoming the things that she denies about herself. Now, the interesting thing about this spiritual development and this spiritual growth, if you watch Lady Gaga's entire arc and her entire career, that's what she uses Marina Abramovich to do. That's Marina's entire thing, is using what she calls performance art, which is really just spirit cooking and all this evil shit, right? Fucking putting baby's blood and putting fucking literal pig blood and semen and fucking dining off of naked bodies and putting shit in your own ass and fucking funneling it into a straight butt bong into your mouth. I mean, literally shit like that. Literally fecal shit. Okay, that's her whole thing, is going so deep into your lower, you pop out of it a whole fucking new person, right? And through that, that's how you discover your true will. Now, this is almost like a satanic version of Nietzsche, right? Nietzsche had this idea of the will to power, literally using your will to get what you want. The will to power, like you're literally taking your will and fucking exerting it in whatever way you can or whatever way possible. Now, that's an extreme dumbing down and a little bit inaccurate, but for sake of conversation, I'm going to explain it that way. But when we look at Crowley or we look at people like Marina, they're doing it in a more spiritual way, right? In this vein, Nietzsche would represent a Luciferian intellect and an ego that is enlightened with it's marveling at its own intelligence in order to accomplish something. But with Crowley and Marina, you have this like it's more spiritual dark. It's literal. I'm going to put my hand into the shit to pull a diamond out of it, right? Whereas with Nietzsche, we're envisioning a diamond in our own mind's eye, the perfect thing, and we can create it and grab it ourselves, right? But when you become the lady in the red dress, what you become to with Crowley is you become to what he describes the divine feminine. The way he describes the divine feminine is as Babalon, what he calls Babalon. And he spells it Baba, Babalon. It's not Babylon like the city, but he spells it both. He spells it either way, but it's interesting. He does spell it Babylon, almost like a baby, like Baba, a Babalon. I don't know. It's very weird. But the thing with Crowley's idea of the divine feminine is it's not a goddess. Okay. Within paganry, we always have these goddesses and these like maidens. Okay. But what it is it's literally the sacred whore of the apocalypse. It's the mother of abominations that is seated upon the beast. Okay. Now in this example, the entire song, and in the music video, there's these people dancing around her, and it almost looks as if she's riding these people. Holy Spirit, activate. It almost looks like she's riding these people, and they're doing her will and exhorting her will. And there's these parts where they're all chanting, Abracadabra, and she's like, boom, boom, boom. And it's like she is the whore of Babylon on this beast, right? Now, obviously, the whore of Babylon is this concept that's talked about in the book of Revelations, but Crowley expands upon it. And we literally get this woman deity out of it, and that becomes something that he mythologizes and turns it into a good thing, because where within Christianity the whore of Babylon represents everything wrong with sort of like the unchained woman, in his mind it's everything right with it, because as it ties into someone like Friedrich Nietzsche who has this idea that we need to reclaim our paganry, which Christianity stamped out. It's sort of the same thing. And the whore of Babylon, the divine feminine, we won't call it the whore of Babylon because that's not what it is. It's the divine feminine to Crowley represents the unrestrained sexuality, ecstatic surrender, and the spiritual liberation. The goddess who initiates to pour out their ego's fears and illusions into her cup of fornications, both nurturing and annihilating, because she takes everything into herself, dissolves false distinctions, and reveals the raw, unfiltered core of existence. Now, this is exactly parallel to Jung's idea of the devouring mother. Now, the devouring mother is just basically that. It is a doting mom who, it's actually not exactly that. It's a lot different, actually. I don't even know why I said that. But the devouring mother is sort of a mother who feeds its child and feeds its young for her to feast upon, right? So it's sort of the narcissistic mother who has, it's not the same thing literally at all. Ignore what I just said. It's a mother who has a son who she feeds it and she clothes it and she loves it so it can love her, so she can devour it. Literally, it's insanely fucking fucked. But the other thing is that this divine feminine is not tamed nor submissive. It is extremely sexually autonomous, and it is just exactly the sexual anima libido fucking turned up to 1,000,000. That's what it is, and that's what in this video is perfectly represented. It's perfectly fucking represented in this video, because the people are the beast. The people dancing around her are the beast, and that's what it is. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I don't know if you guys enjoy stuff like that, those kind of breakdowns. That's the stuff that we're going to be bringing over to the Patreon a lot more. And interestingly enough, this ties in perfectly with Katy Perry and Katy Perry's idea of the divine feminine that she had on her little space cruise. Okay, when Katy Perry went on the space cruise in the fucking missile, What did that mean? Especially when we have the patches that look like Baphomet. What are we talking about here? So let's get into that. We're going to jump immediately over into the Patreon right now. Patreon.com/IzzyNGriffin. Let's go.